My child, ask yourself a seemingly absurd question. A person who has attained supreme enlightenment, who has grasped every secret of life, why must he wear simple robes, walk barefoot, and go begging for a meal through every street? This is a question many people have asked. They often think I'm a god, an omnipotent being who can create everything just by thought. That is a great mistake. I sit here, speaking to you with this voice, to confirm a very fundamental truth. I am not divine. I am human. I get hungry. I get tired. I endure the sun and the rain just like any one of you. The reason I go begging is not because I am helpless or cannot provide for myself. I go because I choose to live in accordance with the truth of this body. I want to remind you and myself that this body is a reality that must be accepted. If this body does not eat, it will wither and die. And if this body, this tool, dies, the mind that I have awakened will no longer have the means to remain in the world. That mind will not be able to continue helping, nor can it guide anyone still lost in the darkness. Therefore, I carry the alms bowl to sustain the life of this body, so that my mind can serve the world. It is a simple, clear action, with no magic or mystery involved. Listen now, and let us delve deeper into the true meaning of life and death. I continue the story. My child, once I accepted that I must nourish this body, for if it dies, I cannot help anyone, the next question was, how should I feed it? I dedicated many years to contemplating the laws of life, and I understood clearly, this body needs food, but it is not allowed to be greedy. That is a huge difference that people often misunderstand. When you cannot distinguish between need and greed, you are turning yourself into a slave. You are no longer eating to sustain life, you are eating to satisfy a fleeting sensation of taste. You seek satiation, deliciousness, and luxury in food. And when you do that immoderately, you are personally forging your own chains. Your body, which should be a light tool for your practice, becomes a burden. You worry about finding good food, you are busy digesting it, and then you are tired by the lethargy caused by a full stomach. At that point, the body has become a prison confining your mind. I choose the alms-seeking lifestyle to cut off that attachment at the root. My bowl always contains the sufficient. It is never allowed to be completely full, for fullness is excess. It is never allowed to be intentionally empty, for emptiness is self-mortification. I receive food and stop at the right moment. I have no right to choose, no right to request. I receive whatever is offered. Listen now. My goal is not the feeling of satiation or the satisfaction of taste. The bowl's objective is to contain enough energy, just enough so this body does not collapse from weakness, enough so I can continue walking on the path of enlightenment, enough so e, a, e, as, e, can sit down for contemplation and speak the words of truth. Eating, for me, is merely an act of maintenance. It is not joy, it is not a reward, but merely the means for the mind to operate freely. The bowl teaches temperance. Look into my bowl and see. That is the lesson of thorough temperance. When you learn to use food as a kind of tonic, only taking the necessary dosage to sustain life, you free your mind from the shackles of taste. You will no longer be dragged by flavors and colors. Scarcity will not cause you suffering, and abundance will not make you arrogant. When you overcome the greed for food, you overcome one of the strongest instincts of human existence. You are no longer a slave to eating, dressing, or external coverings. Try to contemplate this. When you are greedy for food, where does your mind turn? It turns outward, seeking and clinging to material things. But when you eat with mindfulness and sufficiency, your mind will always turn inward, focusing on the supreme purpose of life. This sufficiency not only keeps my body healthy, but also makes my mind light and clear. An overly full stomach makes the mind heavy, difficult to contemplate, and easily sinks into sluggishness. I need clarity, and that clarity only comes from simplicity. The alms round is my way of keeping myself in a state of alertness against my own instincts. It is a daily reminder of the fragility and dependence of the body, forcing me to keep my mind in a state of complete non-attachment. Then, you will truly become the master of yourself. You master hunger, you master fullness, and you do not let them become the deities that command your life. There is another question you often think of. Why do I not reside in a peaceful place, letting people automatically bring offerings and food? Why must I take the effort to walk myself? My child, that would go against the path I have chosen. I once said a phrase you should engrave. To understand suffering, you must step into it and walk within it yourself. The truth of life does not reside in clean sermons or pristine, solemn places. No one can truly sense the nature of human existence if they only stand watching from a safe, quiet place. If I merely wait in the monastery, I will only see washed faces, polished words, and carefully chosen meals. I will only see half the truth. I need to walk. I go to the poor villages, I step through the muddy markets, I walk into the difficult labor areas, precisely the places where people are struggling hourly with hunger, with illness, and with nameless fear. Only when I step into where suffering begins can I see with my own eyes things that no scripture, no matter how great, can record. I see the mother looking at her hungry child with nothing to offer. I see the disappointed gaze of the father collapsing after a long day of fruitless work. I see the loneliness and despair gnawing at their souls. To save a person from suffering, I cannot stand high up and shout. I must step in with them. I must touch that suffering, see its root, so that when I speak of the path to liberation, my words will be true and powerful because I have personally walked through it. I walk to find absolute truth, not to find refuge. My child, upon entering those places of suffering, I clearly saw one thing about human nature. I understand that the wealthy, those living in abundance and busy accumulating assets, they rarely listen to the teachings about letting go or impermanence. The shell of convenience has deafened their ears and clouded their minds. They feel they already have everything, so my words seem unnecessary. Conversely, I see that the poor, those experiencing pain, are easily hurt but also more easily understanding. Suffering has softened their hearts, making them crave a path out of the current deadlock. And here is the most important thing. A hungry person does not need a philosophical lecture. They do not need empty theories about reincarnation or karma when their stomach is rumbling. What they need is to be seen, to see a living truth right before their eyes. When they see me, a person who owns nothing but 3 robes and 1 alms bowl, begging for every meal, yet showing no signs of misery, no complaints or haste, when they see me standing amidst the noisy market, amidst the jostling, amidst the judging eyes, yet maintaining absolute serenity, without a single ripple, then the miracle happens. They begin to question themselves. They will look at me, look at the empty bowl, and look back at themselves. They begin to wonder, why does he have nothing, yet he can be so peaceful? Why do I have a home, a job, some possessions, yet I always feel anxious, afraid, and never have enough? Why am I richer than him materially, but more miserable than him spiritually? The very moment they ask that question, that is the seed of liberation. I do not need to use words to plant it. I only need to use my peaceful action to sow it into their minds. I do not perform a great miracle. I only perform a small, silent miracle, showing them the difference between having and suffering, between not having and peace. When people begin to question their own suffering, they have opened the door to finding the answer. And that answer I'm ready to give. I walk to create that moment of reflection. My child, when I walk, it is not only a journey to find food, but the greatest lesson in observation. I do not beg because I need anyone's pity. I walk to listen and deeply understand the human heart. In the moment I stand before a house, my empty bowl becomes a mirror. I see those who give with pure goodwill. They offer me a handful of rice, a bit of vegetable, with reverence and joy because they have had the opportunity to sow a good seed. I receive it with serenity and unattached gratitude. I see purity in them, and I also see those who scold, those who look at me with suspicion, judgment, or even contempt. They slam the door shut or utter rude words. I also receive that with silence and calmness. I do not argue. I'm not sad. I do not react. I see both attachment and suffering in them. You see, every action, every gesture of life, whether giving or refusing, is a key, honest manifestation of the mind operating within each person. I walk to understand the human mind through every gaze, every word, every handful of rice placed in the bowl. Some give because they want fame. Some give because they fear being mocked. Some give because they truly understand sharing. Just by walking through every street, looking into every eye, I clearly see all their layers of pretense fall away. Through those experiences, I grasp suffering never lies in difficult circumstances or in what people lack. Suffering only lies in the mind that constantly clings to circumstances and the things they want to hold on to. If I felt suffering when scolded, it would be because I still clung to the self that wants to be respected. If I felt happy when offered delicious food, it would be because I was still attached to taste. By walking for alms, I have transformed every moment of interaction into a laboratory of the mind. I am not only enlightening them, but I am hence personally practicing non-attachment right in the stream of life. And from that observation, I have distilled a teaching that sounds harsh, but contains the truth. If you want to completely escape suffering, learn how to face that suffering alone. My child, when I say this, I do not mean to teach you to seek austerity or self-infliction. I say this so you can understand an undeniable truth. No one in this world can bear your own suffering for you. When you are hungry, others can feed you, but they cannot erase the gnawing feeling of hunger in your stomach. When you are afraid, others can comfort you, but they cannot peel away the root of fear hidden deep in your mind. You must personally walk through the hunger, overcome the fear of abandonment, go schween through loneliness and illness. And when you can do that, when you completely embrace suffering without running away, without complaining, without trying to instantly fill it, you will see a miracle. Suffering does not kill you. It does only one thing, but it is extremely important. It strips away all the illusions you have built about stability, about control, and about the I that needs to be protected. Suffering is just a fire that tests gold. It burns away everything false, leaving behind only your pure, fearless nature. That is why I walk. I show you that I have faced all those things, and I did not die. I found freedom in accepting the truth. My child, you see, my bowl is just a simple utensil, but in reality, it is a perfect practice, not only for me, but also for the giver. When I stand at the doorstep, this bowl creates a sacred moment, an exchange where no one is higher than the other, no one is the master, and no one is the servant. For the giver, when a person places a handful of rice or a bit of food into my alms bowl, they are practicing one of the most difficult lessons of human existence, learning to let go. They let go of possession. They let go of the greed to keep. They let go of stinginess. They do not offer me a gift in expectation of repayment, a great blessing, or a miracle. They are simply sharing what they have. That act of giving all both even if it is small, helps them expand their soul and cleanse their attachments to material things. They learn that the happiness of giving does not lie in the quantity of the material, but in the non-selfish intention when giving. For the receiver, which is me. When I receive food, I am practicing the lesson of gratitude and non-attachment. I receive it with absolute respect, without distinguishing whether the food is delicious or bad, luxurious or simple. I am grateful that life is sustained, grateful for the kindness of others. More importantly, I receive, but I am not attached to anything received. The food is only a temporary means, not something for me to keep or crave more of. You see, those are two halves of the same lesson. The giver and I, we are not the savior and the saved. We are not the teacher and the student in that moment. We are just two people who are together, completing a truth, sharing without attachment. The giver learns to give everything without needing to hold on to anything. I learn to receive everything without being attached to anything. When both sides are unattached, the person not attached to the merit of giving, and I not attached to the food received, the exchange becomes pure, untainted by greed or pride. This bowl is a silent reminder. Everything in this life is only borrowed. I receive to live, and then use that life to share the path of truth with the world. My child, the most important thing I want you to understand about my act of begging for every meal is that I want to remind myself of an unchanging truth. Enlightenment does not exempt you from the fundamental instincts of human existence. When a person attains awakening, it does not mean their body turns to stone or that they escape the laws of matter. I still get hungry. I still feel tired after a long day of walking. I still endure the scorching heat of the sun or the biting cold of early morning. I am still human. If I had an abundant, stable supply of food, I could easily forget the feeling of hunger and thirst, forget the fatigue, and forget this body's dependence on external circumstances. Convenience would make my mind weak and prone to the illusion that I have transcended everything. The act of begging for every meal, with no certainty for tomorrow, is my way of maintaining connection with the raw reality. It is a daily test of my mind's steadfastness. So what is the difference between me and an ordinary person? The difference is not in whether I get hungry, but in how I face that hunger. When hunger comes, the ordinary person will run from it. They rush to find food. They worry. They become irritable. They complain about the circumstances, and they judge the world for not providing enough for them. As for me, when hunger comes, I see it clearly. I clearly see the gnawing feeling in my stomach. I clearly see the fatigue pulling down on my shoulders. I clearly see the desire to seek comfort. But I do not run away. I do not complain. I do not judge anyone or anything. I simply accept it. This body is hungry. This is the truth of this moment. The act of seeing everything clearly without reacting, without attachment, without trying to change it immediately, that is freedom. Freedom is not escaping hunger. Freedom is not being bound by hunger into fear and greed. Remember, enlightenment does not promise a life without difficulties, but it promises a mind that can face all difficulties with peace. My bowl is the most vivid proof of that truth. It reminds me that, despite being enlightened, I am still a person walking on earth, and I must always be aware of every sensation, every breath. My child, after everything I have shared, look deeply into this bowl once more. It is not just a tool to sustain life, or a practice. My bowl is the most vivid symbol of the ultimate truth. That empty bowl makes a silent declaration. I am still human, but I am not bound by the human condition. I accept all the laws of human existence, hunger, thirst, fatigue. But I have found the way to not let those laws control my soul. I am in this world, but I do not belong to it. I beg for food not because I am weak or lacking. In truth, I am richer than any king on this earth. Because I no longer fear losing anything, I beg for food to stay with the world, to stay with you all. If I chose to live a magical life without the need for food or sleep, I would become alien, unreachable. My words would become myths, not a relatable truth. I must remain here, where people are still hungry for material things, still beneath, obsessed with the fear of loss, and still clinging to every bit of possession, every bit of sensation. Every day I carry the bowl like a bridge connecting two shores, the shore of enlightenment and the shore of the mundane world. When you place food into my bowl, you see I am still human, but you also see the unexplainable peace in my eyes. That conveys a powerful message. If a human can live so simply and still be at peace, then you can do it too. I stay here eating the things of this world to prove that even while living amidst the mud of greed and fear, you can still bloom a pure lotus in your soul. The bowl is my covenant, to remain, but not to cling. My child, you have walked with me through every step and every meaning of this simple alms bowl. Now, I want you to remember this final word. I do not walk for alms because I am lacking. I have repeated this. When a person has seen the truth, all material wealth becomes meaningless. I do not need possessions to feel enough, because my mind is already the greatest treasure. I walk for a much deeper purpose. I want to see who in this world is truly hungry in their soul. The hunger of the body is easy to see. It only needs a handful of rice to be filled. But the tainse, hunger of the soul, the never-satisfied craving for fame, money, power, or affection, that is the most dangerous hunger. I see people who eat well, dress well, but their minds are still gnawing with the fear of loss. They eat 10 meals, but still want the 11th. They have 10,000, but still want one more coin. That hunger is never soothed by food or money, but it only grows over time. And here is the final truth, a truth that cannot be denied, cannot be concealed. I told you, if this body does not eat, this body will die. That is a natural death, an end to a physical tool. That death is not scary because it is the law. But I also tell you, If your mind is not awakened, you will die, even when you are most full. This death is the truly terrifying death. It is the death of vitality, the death of understanding. When your mind is bound by greed, fear, and clinging, you have locked yourself in a cage. You have blinded yourself to the beauty and truth of life. You live, but you never truly taste freedom. You breathe, but you are constantly choked by pressure and anxiety. That is a death that occurs slowly, in every moment you continue to exist. Use my empty bowl as a daily reminder. Nourish your body just enough so your body can serve your mind, and nourish your mind with mindfulness and letting go, so you never die from ignorance or greed. Live each day with an empty soul, ready to receive and ready to give without attachment. That is the path to true peace. Are you ready to let go of the hunger in your soul?